Elkins presents the Elkins Accounting Hour with your host, Chad Elkins.
All right. Well, Mr. Clary, also known as this other guy, how you been?
Chad Elkins and this other guy put together a course. That's awesome. I'm tired. I did 9 videos yesterday, 7 today. I haven't even gotten to the yard work and physical labor I got to do. And then I did the gym and I went to the post office. And it's 6 o'clock, man. I've been going since 8.
Wow. Well, I won't tell you what time I woke up this morning because you would just make fun of me. So
I doubt you got up in the morning. I'm going to guess like 12:15 p.m. is when you got up.
No, I got up at 10 today. I was up kind of late last night. I had a little trouble sleeping. So yeah. Real quick, this is the same beer that I had last week. I have a whole fridge full of them I have to drink. It's that Half Acre Waybird Hazy IPA. It's 6.3%, so it's pretty good.
Why do you have to drink it?
Just because I'm leaving later this week, and I don't know when I'm going to come back, so I don't want to have a fridge full of these that nobody's touching. And I also don't really have any other types of beer in there, so I'm like, well, I'll just go through it.
They'll stay. They're not going to go bad if you're gone for. I mean, beer stays almost forever, like at least a year, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, but I was also way too lazy to go out and get some other type of beer today. So I was just like, yeah, that's going to be my story. I'm just going to drink this. Yeah, well, sounds like you've been busy. Things have gotten busy over here again. It is officially, at least in my professional world, I feel like summer is officially over. Like it is, we are now dealing with the extenders. We're less than 4 weeks until the S Corp and partnership extended returns are due on September 15th. So fun time is over.
Yeah. How does it compare time wise? What, like a busy season, you're what, 80, 90, 100-hour work weeks? And
there is no comparison. This is nothing. Like, it's like, okay, maybe I'll have to work a few hours every day, including some Saturdays and Sundays, but this is nothing, man.
Okay, hold it. Wait, no, it's busy season. It's the second busy season. It's the second World War. What are we talking? 10 hours a week?
No,
18 hours a week? What are we talking about?
We're probably ramping up to, I'd say I'm at about 25 to 30 now. But I know you're going to make fun of me for that. As we get into mid-September, and particularly in like early October, it's probably going to go up past 40. But I know. But this is good because thanks to your help, I have tailored my own practice where I don't have to necessarily do this, but I will choose to, because there's always some desperate people. They're like, I can't find anybody. I need some help. Please help me.
Could we call this Japanese refusal season? Is this when it comes in? Like this is the deadline. They can't mess this up, otherwise they run afoul of the IRS. So they're serious, and you could give them Japanese refusals.
Let me give you the specific Japanese refusal dates. From about September 8th to September 15th, that's Japanese refusal season 1. And then from about October 7th or 8th to October 15th is Japanese refusal season number 2. So
what about Japanese refusal season in normal tax season? Is that even a thing, or are they just kicking it down? Okay, so there are people who they'll pay to get it before the first deadline.
Some people, for whatever reason, maybe they want to buy a house or deal with a mortgage lender. They're like, hey, I really need this done. I'm like, well, I'm full. Sorry. I can't find a CPA to do it. Will you please do it? No, I said I was full. Please, we'll pay anything. All right. I'd like to introduce you to the Japanese refusal. And so, yeah.
You should have a company called Japanese Refusal Accounting. And you're like emergency accountants, like, well, we can do it, but you're going to get a Japanese refusal. And then,
funny, it's similar to the name of your little consulting firm.
What, Asshole Consulting?
Yeah, Asshole Consulting plus Japanese Refusal Accounting. It's like a good one.
It's like 90s band names coming out. You get this weird epic of weird LLC names. because Gen X got creative with their accounting and the economy's so fucked up. This is what we come up with: Japanese Refusal LLC and Asshole Consulting LLC.
I can't remember just because I've gone through it in bits and pieces, like it's so scattered. Did you mention Japanese refusal at all in the world's
I did.
greatest?
Yeah,
Did you? Yeah.
two of the more eccentric or colorful, I would say, yet very practical uh, bits of advice in there. I did do the Japanese refusal about pricing, but then I also mentioned there's an entire segment about not being a spurg and like being social and
Yeah.
how to talk and not bore people. So I tried my best on that because we can make that a 5-hour segment unto itself, but there's a good 15-20 minutes about that.
Okay, I thought I had seen it. I just couldn't remember. So good. I think that's very important part of that course. So
Well, you insisted on it, so and that's where I mean, I know you looked at the outline and everything. Have you watched the video yet? I
yeah,
know it's 6. Okay, you have.
I've
Okay, that's
watched
good.
not all of it yet, just
Uh,
like bits and pieces. But yeah, it's I think that's really good. So yeah, the Japanese refusal, I feel like is one of the best things that can come out of working in this field. So. Mm. Well, anyway, I actually have a pretty good show tonight that I was inspired to do because of who I had lunch with just the other day, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But do you and I? So we've talked so much about ways to like not go to college, not get an accounting degree, yet how to get into tax, how to get into bookkeeping, various things you can do
mhm.
in an alternative path. But Da have you and I really done a lot of talking about what corporate accounting is like?
Like just being a staff accountant and
Yeah, yeah,
I guess not because I've never worked as a staff accountant. My girlfriend has. I'm by association aware what's involved, but no, I don't think we've ever talked about being a corporate accountant working in industry.
and that's why I thought I should, do this and why I was inspired the other day to do it because believe it or not, I'm still getting emails, some of them are still way too long, guys, just, but I do get some questions about working in corporate accounting, like what it's like, what's good about it, what's bad about it, if it's worth pursuing. And so I went ahead and put together some notes about this, and I thought it would be a good talking point because that is part of the decision tree. When people want to get into this field, there are ways of, there's public accounting, there's entrepreneurship, there's all this other stuff, but corporate accounting, I think, deserves a little bit of time.
Is that?
So,
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, but isn't that just corporate bookkeeping? I mean, you start as a bookkeeper
mm,
and you do payables, receivables, ledger entries. Isn't it just that before a corporation? And maybe because it's large, you focus on one division.
more or less, yeah. But the reason why that's such a good question you asked is because I'm going to pretty much go through all that because
Okay.
it's something I think could help some people. And let me before I get into this, let me ask you this. This is right when I first met you, and in fact, I hadn't met you in person when I was doing all this. Do you happen to recall what I was doing for a couple of summers as I was like getting established with my own practice? Do you remember?
You
Do you
didn't you
remember?
volunteer to go work at a company downtown so you were reminded of what corporate work was like so you would continue down the self-employment path?
Exactly.
Right.
No, it wasn't just because I wanted to torture myself. Like there were some good reasons for it. I was still getting a stat. So this was back in the summers of 2015 and 2016. Good memories. Except for the Cuddlewooks part. But yeah, so it was those summers, and I wasn't quite fully established with my own tax practice back then. So even though when busy season ended, I earned enough money where I could have made it through the year not doing anything else. I wanted a little bit more. It never hurts to have a little bit more money.
Mm.
And it's what you just said. I did it because I wanted to remind myself why I should never get too comfortable or complacent, as far as getting my own practice up and running. Because, dude, being stuck in a cubicle farm over the summer is the supreme motivation to keep on
Oh,
hustling.
especially I mean, I don't like Chicago, but man, Chicago in summer, at least back in the day, can be really fun. It can be a grand old
Fan
time.
freaking tastic.
Yeah.
I've been back for almost 2 weeks now, and yeah, it has been. You weren't here when I did the show last week, but we went to the Air and Water show. You know, the candidate and
Oh
I
yeah,
on the
Navy
lake.
Pier.
Oh, it was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, good friend of mine who we got on his boat and we were out there on Lake Michigan watching it. It was just fan freaking tastic. So summers in Chicago are pretty much the only time you want to be in Chicago to the extent that you want to be. But I gave it up in 2015 and 2016 to get some corporate accounting experience. And I'm going to talk about that tonight.
Well, so before you go into the specific experience, did you do it to get experience to bolster your resume? Or did you just do it to remind? I mean, I know you had Ulta, but I presume you're already savvy in corporate accounting.
Yeah, it was essentially it was kind of like I said, like I didn't quite have a full roster of clients yet for my tax practice. Remember, there's always been a bit of a shortage, but it wasn't nearly as bad, you know, back in 2014, 15, and 16 as it is now. Like the pandemic accelerated the hell out of that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just kind of found myself. It was May. It was late May. I was getting tired of like sleeping until noon, and
Tough
you
life,
know, yeah, just doing nothing. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'll earn some extra money. You know, it'll just keep me busy, and I'll gain an appreciation for what I have. And I have
Yeah.
to say that's what
Yeah.
happened. But I do want to clear some quick super chats. I do want to jump into it because like I got a lot I want to say about it, and I think you'll find it interesting. And I'm curious about your opinions about it. So first, just a few things. I'll read these for King Crab for $2. Got fired, and two of my clients went under this week. So this is King Crab, aka Duke Crab. I've done 2 streams with him. You weren't here for either one. He was part of the bookkeeping crew that I was talking to. So I saw this earlier because he sent it before the show started. And I said, well, that sucks, man. Why did that happen? And he said, for the bookkeeping clients, cost of business and lack of sales. So they just decided to shut down. And then for the bookkeeping job he had, new management and was there for 2 weeks, got first paycheck, and then got walked out, no reason given, did what they asked me to do. I am a bit convinced that the economy is about to.
Oh, I just had a client, younger guy. He lives, I think, in the ghetto. I'm not sure, but a poorer part of town. Him and everyone he knows is trying to apply for jobs. Fast food people are rejecting them. They can't find it. We are going to be in it looks like a pretty serious recession. It's not good. It's not good at all.
Yeah, and I guess I'm a little bit surprised. I thought they would at least wait until after, you know, the November election for the bottom to start to drop on this. I guess that's when the stock market will.
Well, but I mean, the politicians can manipulate whatever they want, but these people were already going under. And by the way, Crab, it ain't your fault. I hope you know that.
Yeah, it's not his
I mean, especially you're walked out of the facilities a week on I mean, how, unless you were banging the boss's wife, I don't know. It's not a you problem then that you're laid off in 1 week. I mean, that's a them problem.
Yeah, it's very much a them problem, you know, because that's an economic indicator. So so yeah, let me see what else we got.
Another thing, just to talk of the recession, do you know what's happened to my advertising dollars or advertising revenue through Amazon?
Has it decreased?
It's decreased by about half.
Really?
Yeah. So super chats are still normal because, you know, what else is Dre going to do with his money? He's got nothing else to do. And then, I mean, what he's got to but I was like, and I went through the analytics. Like, what the hell's happening? I'm doing the same amount of videos and minutes. And yeah, the advertising. So I think YouTube advertisers are spending a lot less money.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming, man. It's coming. And man, it's a great time to have some skills. Like, I don't know, in accounting, you know, but yeah, Crab is not the only one to be sending these reports in.
Past couple of weeks, I've heard from not one, but 2 of my, let's just say saucy workers, you know, from the internet, their sales are significantly down. Could this be a leading indicator of a recession?
Atham, funny you mentioned that because our good friend Atham, he must be bored because he was on the sex worker Reddit forum and
Really?
reading, and he's like, "Hey, have you seen the sex worker Reddit forum?" I'm like, "Not this week, no." I said, "What's going on?" He's like, "They're all complaining about everyone's getting salty, a lot of dusty guys, like people aren't paying anymore." So I went there, I tried to find it. I said, "What are you talking about?" I didn't find anything. Well, then he sent me some specific links, and there are varying years and vintages, but and that was Atham's theory, is that sex work would probably be one of the first luxuries to go that men would cut back on. But maybe it's more pronounced now, but I didn't see necessarily a trend, but that did happen before in the Great Depression or the Great Recession. Men would be cutting back, but then what was funny is as women got laid off, guess what happened?
Then the company actually improved? Or?
No, the women were getting laid off. So what would happen in the sex market?
Oh, I see what happened. They actually were reintegrating
More and
themselves.
more women were
Yeah.
kicking around, and this was even
Okay.
before the
Yeah.
OnlyFans thing and all that. So they're actually like looking at real old school, like either stripping or the lady of the evening work. I don't know if it'd be the same now. I think everyone just go digital, but yeah, it would be. I would trust those figures before I trust GDP figures coming out from the Federal Reserve.
Clary, am I echoey or anything? Did I sound okay?
You sound fine.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, Lord, I'll mess around with it. Yeah, so maybe instead of talking about like real estate prices, interest rates, and all that, maybe they should pay more attention to OnlyFans if they want to predict how the economy is going to do, in the next few.
Yeah, they should. Yeah. Well, housing starts as a leading economic indicator, but yeah, there's a whole world. If you want to use unconventional leading economic indicators, you could. The problem is economists are so sterile and stodgy. They wouldn't dare look at anything that was slightly fun or sexy or politically incorrect. But that's their problem, not us.
And this I want to do real quick. Alan K for $1.99, and then he sent another one for $4.99. He said, "Love the content and streams. Wanted to get the accounting course on Teachable, but for some reason I keep getting errors." He had hit me up a couple days ago wanting a consultation, and I said, "You don't need one. Just go ahead and get the course. Here is the link." So I wanted to check and see if you'd heard anything.
Try a different browser, and
Yeah.
sometimes Teachable, they go for maintenance. But if he keeps getting errors, try a different browser, try a different computer. It's sometimes, or more often than not, the browser or the hardware you're using.
Okay. Yeah.
I could check to see if it's up now, but yeah.
Well, so he would email me and say it wasn't working, and then I would go there and check, and it seemed fine. So I didn't think it was a macro issue, but I left a link for it in the description.
Yeah, it's
video,
up.
So.
It's up. It's there.
Okay, and last one for now. Justified Misogyny, $2. Should I interview for a job where I don't feel qualified? That might actually be a you question. Do you think?
Absolutely.
Do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because Chad, have you ever worked a job where they used your full set of skills?
No. Please.
I've never come close to being challenged at a job. Justified, you're able to, especially with YouTube, you can look it up if you don't know how to do it now. And then I also believe I was watching Josh Fluke, and there's a strategy corporations are employing now, more fucking middle school girl mind games, but they're purposely putting jobs out there with requirements that are beyond what they would normally accept because they want to see if you got the balls to apply anyway.
Really?
Yeah, it's just typical HR middle school girl boss horse shit. So just apply, justify. It ain't gonna cost you nothing except for a couple minutes. So there's really no reason not to. But I would never be intimidated by, I don't think I'm qualified. If you were a nuclear engineer, then I'd worry about it. But finance and accounting, fuck that.
And yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting more interviewing practice, if nothing else, as long as it won't like cause you to go insane with the stupid questions from the HR ditses. So, all righty, that is it for super chats for now, and let's get to corporate accounting. There's a few prefaces I want to talk about this. First thing is that just from the very beginning, I have to tell you guys, corporate accounting jobs are almost always only for those who have either graduated from college with a degree in accounting or have a degree in finance or business or something related to accounting, or some work experience in accounting with a degree. So this is not one of the things that you and I have been talking about. You actually had to have gone to college for this.
Mhm.
So another thing, lots of people who are working in corporate accounting do have their CPA designations, and many of them also have prior experience working in public accounting. Okay. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that these are required to get a job with a company in their accounting departments. It just means that's what you typically see in those who tend to get and stay in these jobs, because that's what these companies tend to look for. Okay. So, I mean, there's really no way around it. If you're interested in working in corporate accounting, you're going to have to get your bachelor's. Wouldn't you agree with that, Clary?
Well, yeah, I have to, because I've
Yeah.
never worked in corporate accounting, but I
Yeah.
do know when you say corporate and generally a larger organization, yes, they're going to probably, any kind of W-2 employment, they're going to prefer a college degree.
Yeah. So this is what the purpose of this. I'm going to explain what some of the roles are for people in corporate and how it works. So a typical corporate accounting career progression goes like this. Actually, did you want to take a stab at this, Clary? Like
Oh, well, corporate accounting. So there's the public accounting first, and then you work in industry. But yeah, you're going to go to college. You're going to intern, probably at a public accounting firm. You will get assigned audit or tax, probably audit.
Audit.
You will become familiar with that industry. Let's call it the shoemaking industry. As you audit more and more financial statements, you obviously become intricately familiar with not only the industry, but the accounting practices in that industry. And then after 2 or 3 years in public accounting, you might get tapped on the shoulder because you've made so many contacts. Like, hey, we need you to head up our new inventory accounting division at USA Shoes. And so now you are a corporate accountant at USA Shoes.
And this is a very savvy comment from Raymond Bucci. Big corporate's filled with big four people who put their time in and left. Okay. It's typically for those that are on the audit track. You can get an industry job if you're in tax, but they just typically go off and do other things, including starting their own firms. So the way it works is you start as a staff accountant, and then what comes after that, Clary? Do you know?
Super staff accountant. No,
Close.
senior staff accountant. Yeah.
Senior staff accountant. Yeah. And then after a few years of that, you may or may not get promoted to what's called an accounting manager. So now you're managing the staffs and the seniors. And this is really where the vast majority of people's corporate accounting careers tend to stall, because once you make it to accounting manager, you're in middle management. And unless you're going to go up to either being a controller or something in the C-suite, you're kind of just going to remain there.
There's not like director in between.
It depends on the company. There probably are some points in between accounting manager and getting up to controller, but it's really just right in that middle management tier where a lot of people's careers just kind of stay. And then a lot of them will make like lateral moves to other companies trying to get up even higher to controller. And I'll talk more about this when it comes to corporate accounting. But as I said, so going back to the summer of 2015, I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to look for a corporate accounting job for the summer in 2015. So I went and looked for a few jobs online. This was literally the last time I've updated my resume. It was like 9 years ago. And I found one that looked pretty good here in downtown Chicago. I won't say the company, but it's headquartered here, and it is in the tech industry, believe it or not. And I found the old job description in my email, and these are the duties. Okay, this is what they were looking for.
All right.
Perform month-end close activities and complete journal entries, account reconciliations, and monthly budget versus actual analytical summaries and variance analysis for over 50 departments. Collaborate with members of operations and financial planning and analysis teams to prepare and analyze the forecasted budgets for assigned departments. And this third bullet point got me interested. Prepare various tax and compliance analysis for audits, government reporting, and Sarbanes-Oxley regulations. You probably heard of that before, right?
Sarbanes-Oxley, man, I haven't heard that in years.
SOX,
Wow.
the good old days of
wow.
SOX. That was the, oh, I missed the SOX. Maintain PeopleSoft reports on a monthly basis and update accordingly for current month forecast, budget, and all the other necessary modifications. And then the last bullet point, another one that piqued my interest. Complete and assist with ad hoc projects as needed, including bank fee analysis, accounting records system integration, and tax depreciation treatment and reporting for fixed assets. So I was like, ooh,
yeah, no,
yeah.
I can see you getting excited about that.
So let's get to the interview. So I apply for it. It was just later that day, I get an email back. Hey, we really liked, your resume, government. I did some nonprofit accounting before this. I'm not going to talk about that, but I knew how to do everything that was listed in the bullet points here. So, and they saw my public accounting experience. So we set up an interview for a day or two later, and I walk in there and it's with the accounting manager, and in walks this guy who's like, couple years younger than me, like super chill, super cool, like laid back. I was just like, wow, if this guy's going to be my like supervisor or whatever, this is already a good start. And what happened was there was a staff accountant that was about to go out on maternity leave. And so they needed me to just kind of step in and keep things rolling until she came back. Mm. And after having had multiple bad bosses, really bad bosses, before I went out on my own, I kind of developed a sense for who would be a good manager versus a terrible manager. Maybe that's worthy of a show in the future. But
that is definitely worthy of a show.
Yeah.
Write that one down.
Absolutely, yeah. We will do a show on that in accounting.
Soon.
Soon. So it ended up, he off the bat, I got a great vibe. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a good dude to like work with, not even work for, just work with. Best of all, I'm not going to get specific, but the pay for this job was actually quite a bit more than I would have expected for like a fill-in like this. Maybe because I had a CPA or something, but they were just willing to offer very fair rate. So the interview went well, and I got an offer later that day, and by the next Monday, I had started. So
that doesn't even happen. Like, it's
does
like,
not
when does that
anymore.
happen? That's like in the movies, the way you just described it.
My guess is they had some people that were applying, and they either didn't have the experience, or they would get into these interviews and they'd talk to that manager and they'd be spurgs or something. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing I could figure, but it was also 9 years ago, so it was kind of a different world back then. Mm-hmm. So anyway, what was the job like? Okay. I worked there for 3 full months. I did this back-to-back summers, but I'm just mainly talking about the first summer. It was from mid to late May to mid to late August. Okay. So I was just right when there's not a whole lot going on in the tax world. It's like the timing was perfect. The job description was very accurate. Like everything you heard, like, was exactly what I did, except, get this, except for that stuff about taxes and depreciation and about SOX. I was so disappointed because those were the things that I wanted to work on, but it also wasn't tax season. So of course, I wasn't going to be thrown. I know.
So, man, you didn't get any of the fun with those tax depreciation asset schedules. Oh man, you were real deprived. God.
I even said to my manager, I'm like, hey, man, can I actually, add value from a tax standpoint? He's like, oh, they don't get started on that stuff until September, man. So you're going to be out by the time we do that. But anyway, so what the job was like, the biggest thing, and I mean the biggest, was the first bullet point in there. Month-end close was absolutely huge. Clary, do you know what month-end close is when it comes to corporate accounting?
I'm going to guess that's when you have to take all your T accounts, all the ledgers in the accounting system, and balance them out and consolidate them so that you have the final tallies of your expenses that you can then create a monthly income statement. And then also you can update the balance sheet. So all the transactions that month must be processed, accounted for, consolidated. So you have the final figures for the month and all the different accounts and expenses. And then after completing the income statement, you can then update the income statement. The balance sheet.
That was actually a lot more concise than I was expecting to get out of you.
I know I
Like,
went to
well
the
done.
Carlson School of Management, but I was an honors graduate from the Carlson School of Management.
What it is that Carlson School of Management aside, you know this, like accounting is done on the accrual system, not the cash system. So let's say that the company I'm working for receives a cash, they get a payment for something on like January 31st, but they don't actually get the money until February 3rd. You have to make all kinds of adjusting entries to ensure that even though they didn't get the cash yet, you're still counting the revenue for January. Goes that way with expenses. If you pay the power bill on January 31st, but the check doesn't clear until, February 3rd, you still have to count it as an expense in January. So picture that, hundreds and maybe even thousands of transactions like that at the beginning of ends of every month. And that's why you need month-end close. You got to tie that up.
And then the accounts that kind of bridge that gap, like prepaid expenses, payables,
Yes.
receivables.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, they owe us, but we're going to recognize the revenue anyway, even though we haven't gotten the cash. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And this was is still a really big company. So, that's a really important job because the C-suite people want to see how things are going each month and quarter and all that. So yeah, record monthly income and expenses, update accounts payable and receivable, prepare account reconciliations, check the petty cash fund, review inventory, check fixed assets, reconcile prepaid and accrual accounts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you got it. Here's the thing about month-end close. It is so incredibly tedious, man. It is just, it's like stabbing your eye out. And this is coming from a guy who does taxes, who people things like, watching paint dry. To me, this was just so tedious.
Is that why the accountants make the money?
Yes.
Because if it was fun and blowjobs, I don't think the pay would be there. But you're saying you were paid more. You're surprised how much you were paid, yet the work was tedious. I wonder if there's a correlation with that.
Funny how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's something that people in the chat may already know, but when month-end close is like a big deal, the way it worked in this company was it had to be done by the 4th day in the month. It had to. It doesn't matter if you're there working until midnight every night on, the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. It has to be done by the 4th. All right. So here's another thing. It's not just month-end close. There's also quarter-end close, and of course the annual close, although that's more working with auditors and things like that. So it forces, so it's not just, the staff accountants and seniors doing this. It's also the accounting managers. They're kind of stuck, monitoring all this. Like they're not off the hook. They can't just leave early and be like, all right, guys, have at it. They have to be there overseeing it. And quick story, I haven't mentioned them much. I have 2 female friends here in Chicago who are around my age. They are accounting managers at 2 different firms. I got to tell you, man, they're both single and they're liberal. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
But their entire lives, I mean, everything, man, are revolved around these month and quarter end closes. It's just, to me, it's absolutely brutal. Because they can't take vacations. Like it's all about that particular.
I'm dating one. I'm very familiar with month-end closing, quarter-end. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask you if you wanted to chime in about that.
Well, I mean, that time of the month takes on a whole new meaning, but it's real. I mean, it's you just kind of know, and it is month-end. Probably, I think the GF has probably a little bit more streamlined accounting system because she's been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Very familiar with the system. So, but it's like, it's month end and then quarter end. That's a big deal. At your large company, I think it's just the sheer size of the company. She works at a company that has multiple divisions and subsidiaries. Mm-hmm. So you got to consolidate that. It's absolutely a very busy, and 4 times a year, at least.
So this was, I did some other things those summers, which I'll talk about, but this was really the crux of what they needed me for, because they had to have somebody in there that could do all that stuff to get the financial statements ready, for each month and even quarter. So that was the biggest part of what I did. And, as for the rest of the duties, when it wasn't month-end close, there was a lot of variance analysis, because they had dozens and dozens of apartments, and the higher ups wanted to see, how the revenues and expenses were stacking up with budgets and projections and things like that. So I would run all kinds of these reports to see if the company was spending too much in some categories, or if they had room to move to other categories. I had to study the revenue projections that they had come up with, because it's the controller and CFO that takes all of this and decides what sort of strategies to implement. And then really the third main thing I did was the special projects, like that final bullet point that I mentioned. One of these, I was trying to remember one of them I did. One of these was the controller, it was either the controller or the accounting manager I worked for. They'd randomly pop into my cubicle whenever one of the higher ups wanted me to go down some kind of rabbit hole, like regarding an expense or something that wasn't jiving. So we'd have to do that. One example that I did remember is that this company had a S&T department, which stands for sales and travel. So, they had to get people out there to generate business. And one month there was a huge uptick in air travel expenses. And so they came to me and they're like, will you look into this a little bit? Like,
kind of an auditing function.
A little bit. Yeah. Special project. Yeah. So they were like, why was it so high for that particular month? And it turned out that it was just a case of much higher airfare expenses that particular summer. Yeah. It wasn't, they were concerned they were buying like first class, plane tickets,
quasi embezzlement or padding the expense account a little.
Yeah, which they weren't. I mean, it was just airfares were high those summers of 2015 and 2016. And check your private chat.
Okay, I guess completely wrong.
But no, so I was telling Claire in the private chat what company it was. It's a lot bigger than you might think. This company is huge downtown. So that was the main thing of what I did. And, there were some other small one-off duties, but what I mentioned there were the vast majority of what I did. And like I said, man, the one thing that you'll notice is I didn't get to do any tax work, even though I practically begged for it, at the end. It was just because the timing didn't work. They're like, we don't need you for it. So, yeah.
It's like The Natural, Robert Redford. You ever see that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back and they don't have him pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great pitcher. They never had him pitch when he was old. Like, well, what happened?
Clary likes a sports ball movie. That kind of warms my heart.
Yeah, no, I didn't like that movie. I mean, I didn't hate it, but.
So, yeah, that was pretty much what I did both summers, because one of the other accountants had a kid the following summer. So I stepped in again.
Wait, the same gal had a kid?
No, another
different
female,
gal. Okay.
Different gal in the same
Man,
department.
we need these pregnant women so we could get our part-time gigs in the summer.
What was cool was that I got to command a higherly rate the second summer because they didn't want to train somebody else. So they had no leverage.
Did you get an offer to come on full time? I bet you did.
No, because they were all good. It was just temporary because of the maternity leave. But fun story. You visited one time. This was in the late summer of 2016. You were here visiting. We went to your favorite bar, down here. It was with a big group of guys. I don't know if you remember this, but I had walked in way late, at 9:30 p.m. or something after you guys had been there for hours. Yeah. That was because I was dealing with month-end close at this company. Okay. Yeah.
Do you remember what we said when you came in about because I was here at Corey back then, wasn't I?
Yes. Not yet. Not yet. Okay. Because I was still living here. Yeah, I don't remember what we said, but I do remember I got actually a pretty warm reception. So I was like, oh.
If I recall correctly, we were talking about what we were going to do to Cuddle Wookums because she hated me so much. And the idea was that I was going to go because our friend Marcus Brown, he knew where she was working as a barista. And so I would go in there and buy a coffee, pay cash for it, and then I give her 33 cents. And I say, here's 33 cents on the dollar to cover the wage gap. And we told you, that'd be a great idea. And you're like, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's like, oh, man. So despite how fun those summers were, there's a dark part of my brain that remembers that time. So we'll just leave it because I was seeing her both of those summers when I was down here. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. To help everybody out, I put together 5 positives and 5 negatives about working in corporate accounting, not
corporate accounting.
Corporate accounting based on my experiences. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the negatives because I would prefer to end on a positive note.
All right.
Negative number one, which I've already talked about. The work was boring as all get out, dude. Like, there's no way to put lipstick on that pig. It's boring and it is tedious. Okay. It's just running reports, analyzing bank accounts, searching through hundreds of thousands of transactions to spot anomalies, and then trying to find the ones that you find and see if they need adjustments. And like I say, before people want to say that tax work and tax prep is just as boring, I disagree with that because every person's tax circumstances or situation is unique, and there's always a lot more room for creative strategies to minimize people's tax outcomes. That is not what this was. I mean, do you agree with that? Or
well, 100%. Yeah, there's a personality to the taxes. It almost takes on its own fingerprint or DNA.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's got an interesting. Oh, how can we lower tax? There's a little bit of wiggle. This, you're just hunting down numbers to make sure everything balances out. It's just debits and credits.
It's all it is. It's T account stuff. So I found that's the first thing. It's really freaking boring. Negative number two, again, I've already mentioned this. Your life is 100% revolved around the time of month and quarter end closes of this job. Like I said, I worked both summers between mid to late May and mid to late August. Let me tell you how terrible both summers the July 4th holiday was, dude. Because remember, you have to get that they insisted that the financial statements must be ready by the 4th of the month. Well, what happens when there's a holiday? Like maybe the 4th falls on a weekend or something.
Dude, you
like,
don't the banks aren't open. You can't do reconciliations. I mean, not all the people are on staff to answer your questions.
So the accounting department, which I was in, we had, particularly that July 4th holiday, we had to work like dogs July 1st and 2nd into the 3rd because we had to actually get it done by the 3rd instead of the 4th because of that holiday. So, I mean, it really does. Your life depends on that damn deadline. And I hated that. And yes, tax season does run my life, right? But that's only like one or two deadlines out of the year. It's not, freaking a merry-go-round of this stuff. Do you see what I mean?
Well, I mean, you'll finish one month and it's like back to work, and we're going to do it right all over again. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just felt like this is not, I don't know how people can do this like for years and years and years, but there's no way I could have done this for longer than a couple of summers. So that's negative number two. Negative number three, I would hazard a guess that your GF might have complained about what I'm about to talk about before. There was always auditors hanging around, performing their annual audit for this company. And that got really annoying and frustrating. Do you want to take a guess as to why that was so freaking annoying?
Are these external auditors or internal auditors?
Yes, these are actually both. But when I was there, we were dealing with mainly external auditors.
Well, I guess the thing is you're trying to get your job done, but they got requests and they got to see data and reports. So you kind of got two jobs. You got to serve two masters.
Exactly. You nailed it. Remember how I was talking about those special reports, that were part of my duty? Almost all of those were because an auditor would like pop in and disrupt every little flow I was doing. Maybe I was working on something else. Maybe it was month-end close related. And then an auditor would pop in and be like, hey, I need you to like completely stop what you're doing and like prioritize what I'm, looking for. I don't know. I just found that incredibly frustrating. Like,
it interrupts. Yeah, no, I remember at the end of my illustrious banking career, the bank I worked at was so mismanaged that I started out more of a credit analyst, underwriter, banker role. By the time I left, all I was doing was writing weekly reports because the feds came in and started investigating, and the feds wanted weekly updated reports on all the problem loans.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, and it's just it doubles your work amount.
It's terrible.
Well.
How many years did you do that for again?
I just did it for 1 year. This is the Wyoming bank. They're down a quarter of their branches and investigations and all. They got everything they deserve. But yeah, even the feds were getting sick of it. Like, why are you not liquidating this? But it was an ancillary external thing forced on us by an external. And yeah, it just added to your workload.
Buffalo? Buffalo, Wyoming.
Maybe not. I
okay.
don't know. There's a bank somewhere in Wyoming in a
Oh,
town,
okay.
and it had branches, and I'd like to say I'd love to do things to them, but they were so stupid they made their lives hell.
Okay.
There's no way to punish them more.
I remember you had some stories about unrelated matters about Buffalo, Wyoming. So I was
I
like,
have been to
wow.
Buffalo and I've been to Casper and other towns in Wyoming. Yes.
Negative number 4 about working in corporate accounting. Now, it's probably like this at every corporation, but again, I found this a real issue. Too many damn unnecessary meetings. Holy shit. Anytime there was one little thing, it was like, oh, we all need to, stop what we're doing immediately and go into the conference room to talk about some absolutely stupid waste of time issue that would just it would disrupt our ability to do our job.
Did you have, was it as bad at the Big Four, like meaningless meetings, or did they kind of back off on that?
Big Four, if you were going to have meetings, it was generally with the little team that you were in. I actually found the Big Four meetings to be kind of productive. Again, this
Okay.
was tax. I don't know about audit. But God, the CFO at this company, the CFO or the controller would all of a sudden get a bug up their butt, and like they'd like interrupt our work to sit in some stupid meetings so they could like reiterate their, oh, we want to prioritize this and look out for that. It's like, we already know this. All you're doing is impeding our ability to actually do the work that you're trying to get us to do.
That is all meetings. I don't
That's
think I've never been to a meeting that was efficient. It was always a time sink and a waste of you need to have meetings, but wait till you need to have meetings. Don't have them for the sake of having them. And that's 95% of meetings.
This one I wasn't sure about because I was like, it's probably like this at every company, but I just found it particularly prevalent, those summers I was working in corporate accounting. So the final negative, again, this could be about all corporate jobs, but I really found this an issue when I was there. You are basically stuck in a cubicle farm with a bunch of corporate drone normies that at least I, at the time, had nothing in common with, man. Like nothing. I mean, it was just, I remember one of them, one of the staff accountants, this girl, she had somebody had sent her something about Roosh V, which is very controversial at the time. And she was just like, oh, I could never, be around somebody who would consume this material. And I'm in like the cubicle across from her, like, this is why they say never open this shit up at work, because it's just, ugh.
You were there to make money and then go home.
Exactly. And remember, one of the reasons I started my own practice was to forever avoid this type of cubicle work setting. And that corporate accounting job absolutely reminded me of why I felt so strongly about that. Zero privacy. I mean, nothing. You're out there in the open.
One of those, 5'2" cube, and you just kind of pop your head up and look around. Yep.
Like it's just short enough that any normal sized person, so possibly not you and I, could walk up and peek their heads over and be like, what's happening? Like an office space. Yeah. So, and the girl that I just talked to you about, she had this terribly annoying habit of she had a terrible laugh, first of all. And second of all, every time she worked, she would hum. So it'd be like, What's worse, we weren't allowed to wear headphones unless we were on our lunch break.
What?
Because of all those stupid ass auditors coming. Oh, it was just, oh my God. Man.
Oh, my God. No way. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm done. No. Good luck.
So yeah. And again, this could be more related to corporate culture, but I had to mention it because God, that's a negative of working in an accounting department.
Wow. All bad. What are the good ones?
Would you mind entertaining the masses while
Go ahead? I'll promote this. I wonder if I have anything to promote. Do you think there's? Wait, hold on. Before you go off, Mr. Professional Podcaster, did you put your affiliate link down below?
My affiliate link is not only down below, it is now permanently a fixture in every stream I do. Actually, Claire, you know what else I did? This is probably overkill.
You took a nap on a hike in Lake Tahoe.
And I gave the keys to my buddies who went up the mountain. No, I wish Athen was in here. No, what I did was, this is probably overkill, honestly, but every stream I've done in 2024, including the ones over tax season, I went back, changed the description, and put links
That
of
is not
the guys.
irrational.
It's
That's
not
very,
irrational.
yeah, absolutely. That makes complete sense. Yep.
It didn't really take that long.
No.
But anyway, I'll be right back.
All right. We got, what do we got? There's the world's greatest accounting career. Obviously, most of you who tune in regularly know all about it. But if you're new to the show, Chad and I have put together a course called The World's Greatest Accounting Career because we kept getting questions about careers in accounting. And so that is through Teachable. That is linked below. Click on that link so Chad gets his affiliate commission because you like Chad. You want Chad to come back. And yeah, basically took all the information we've been talking about over the past, God, year and a half, 2 years that is spread all over the place on different podcasts. And we consolidated it into a structured, organized, with PowerPoint presentation course. And so you could sign up for it there if you're interested in learning more and just want to get the basics and more down about starting and navigating a career in accounting. There's my shit that I got going on. There's assholeconsulting.com if you got questions about anything not accounting. Well, let me tell you all something here. Get to the fucking point. Chad is this rookie newbie kind of into the world, and he's a nicer guy than I am. He's an incredibly busy man, and you young kids have got to get to the fucking point. There's none of this blah 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 blah. And then I found blah 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 blah. All it does is jack up your price. So I was telling him to get to all that stuff. Oh, gross, gross. I was telling the youngins in your audience that you do not have the time to read everybody's life story and to get to the fucking point if they have a request from you.
Yeah, you guys, if you just do me a favor and please just try to be as concise as you can on these. Like I want to help you, but I can't read your life story.
All right, now let's try that again. Let's try that again.
Just fucking get to the point, please.
There you go. Hey guys, I really apologize. Dumb fuckers, get to the motherfucking point. There, see, there you go.
Thank you. God, this is good. We've gone through the negatives, but believe it or not, man, there were actually some positives. I know I made it sound pretty bad, but we have to be balanced here.
Mhm.
Okay. Positive number one. At least to me, there seems to be a high amount of job security if you work in corporate accounting and perform competently, well on the job. And again, some people may disagree with this. It may vary by industry, but this was my observation because the people that worked where I spent those 2 summers in the accounting department, they'd been there, a good chunk of time. And they'd been promoted accordingly. That was proportional to the time that they had been there. And so, yeah, I felt like there was a lot of job security if I had wanted to work there. And the accounting managers and controllers, this is another thing about them, and your GF could probably speak to this. They have enough things to worry about with their day-to-day, activities. So the last thing they want to do is to try to like hire and train somebody new. So again, this is just from my observation. It's really unlikely that you're ever going to get caught off in like a layoff or something like that. Like once you're in there, you're basically in because every company has to have an accounting department that functions.
Yeah, well, accounting, I would say, is more like if your demand for your product goes down, even your operations get scaled back.
Yeah.
But accounting, not so much. I mean, that's kind of critical. The other thing is, Chad, in all of your different working places, I don't know how many places you work corporate accounting, but have you seen 2 exact accounting systems the same?
Never, not a single time.
And that's one where if you get into corporate accounting, your real job security comes in that, oh, how we do whatever inventory here, our accounting system. And I've kind of witnessed that with my girlfriend's career where I'm like, oh, dude, they couldn't get rid of you. They'd be, because she knows all the systems. She knows how they interact. She's probably the foremost expert on how the accounting system is structured and organized. And you could get someone who's got a CPA, but they don't have the years experience and intimate knowledge of how that accounting system at that specific company and their policies work. So that's probably another reason you have tremendous amount of job security if you do your job and you've been there a couple of years.
So PeopleSoft was the software that they used at this company, and I had happened to have some experience with that. So I think that's why, like, basically I got the offer same day. They're like, "Oh, you know how to do that? You're starting." So yes, I felt like there's job security in there, depending on which company. Positive number two. Okay, again, my observation. The salary and wages for these corporate accounting positions, at least to me, they seem to actually be pretty good for some of the reasons I stated. Like, if you prove that you're capable of doing the job, they're willing to pay to like keep you from leaving, because it really screws them if you leave. They don't want to like take time away from doing month end close and all that just to train and hire somebody else. That's a nightmare for them. So, in addition to job security, I do feel like the salaries, at least back in 2015 and 16, were pretty good. Some people in the chat may disagree with this because I've gotten some emails about this before, but in my opinion, it pays pretty well.
Well, with 20% of the accountants gone in the past 4 years?
Yeah.
I'm sure it pays pretty well. Did you see that article? UCLA research?
Was that one you did a video on?
Mm-hmm.
I listened to the video you did about that. Yeah, that was interesting. Where'd you
down
find
340,000 accountants. Like, yeah, I think they'd be pretty happy to have an accountant who's competent on staff. Yeah.
What source was that, if you happen to remember?
That was a UCLA study. I'm pretty sure it was UCLA, but Bloomberg cited it, and UCLA, but ultimately the source data probably came from the CPA societies. I don't know. Yeah, but it wasn't an estimate. It was a measured number.
Okay. And another thing regarding the pay in corporate accounting is actually way better than public accounting, especially for staff accountants. I'm not just talking about your actual salary. I'm talking about the hours worked. Like, you are not, it's just a better life in corporate accounting versus public accounting. So to me, that's a positive.
Yes, more money.
Despite the boredom. And on that note, despite the occasional late night or two around those month-end close periods I told you about, I actually felt like there was a pretty good, a decent work-life balance for people in corporate accounting. It sucks to sort of have your life revolve around those closed periods, but beyond that, I mean, I'd have to say that, like, I only had to work late a grand total of like 4 or 5 nights each summer. And it was mainly based on that July period where there was that July 4th holiday that kind of forced it. But I don't know. I just felt like it got pretty good work-life balance, all things considered. I mean, what does your GF think about some of these things?
She, no issues so far. I guess we haven't talked about work-life balance. But she has there's a lot of balance. I mean, we go out, we hike, we do whatever we want, but she's not coming home terribly late. Yeah, tax season, year end. She's busy, but it's not like she's working till midnight or anything. She used to work public accounting as well, and I remember she'd be gone. We weren't dating at the time, but like, where's the gal? I'm like, I don't know. Oh, it's busy season. That's right. And she would just be like you back at the Big Four. Be gone. You wouldn't, be submerged like a submarine for a while and come back a little bit later. But I would say no. There's been no, there's been no impairment. Every job, there's going to be some drawback. You might have to work late a little bit, but nothing that ever impaired. I mean, hell, if I bet you the candidate's happy when you're gone a little bit for tax season. If anything, get out. Oh, I got the place to myself. Oh, it's busy season. Oh, you go play poker. Fine. See you. Bye. Yeah. So I would say it's very conducive to a good work-life balance. Yes.
I thought so. And so, again, this is probably company specific, but in corporate accounting, I haven't heard any horror stories about like, oh, it's so stressful like public accounting. So
I would also say it lends itself well to remote work because the GF is remote.
When I was putting together this list, I thought about that because this was like, 8-9 years ago. This was sort of before the whole remote becoming a thing because of COVID. So in a way, I wonder what would have happened, if it had been after that time period. It would have been interesting. I probably could have been at least partially remote.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, and let's just be honest. There's no reason you have to be there. There's no
No.
technological reason you have to be there if you got good security. Maybe occasionally showing up every once in a while, but I know corporations are going, well, we want you to come in and do corporate call, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I mean, and yeah, maybe you have to put in your dues, but it was not a big deal when the GF says I got to work remotely, and they're like, okay, fine,
I
you
can
can
only
dial in.
well, some of the auditors, external in particular, I have to assume they've, both parties have found a way to make it so they can work remotely. But there was a lot of like, knocking on the cubicle, hey, let me bug you for a second. So I'm sure that's been worked out in a remote sense.
Yeah. Or you could just save the time and just text me.
Yeah. Positive number 4. My stress levels working at this corporate accounting gig, believe it or not, they were fairly low the entire time I was there.
What was low again?
My stress level.
Oh, stress level. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think that's just because I was always a temporary employee, because the people around me, the staff accountants and senior accountants, yeah, they get like a tiny bit stressed out around those month-end close periods, but it really seemed like the stress levels were ridiculously low compared to like how I would get stressed out during like tax season, and also my time in public accounting. A lot of these employees came from public accounting, so they were just remembering what a meat grinder that was. So if you go from that, you get into corporate accounting, it's a walk in the park.
I've seen it. It's night and day difference. Where there every year end, you got to close the accounts at year end, you got to prepare financial statements, and then I think one aspect you should talk about with corporate accounting, especially if you get to the controller or account manager, because you're ultimately feeding the data.
Yeah.
You got to do financial statement preparation. In private companies, you have to show these finances, and it's oftentimes the personal taxes of the owners, because a lot of the financing is dependent upon it, and the underwriting requirements say you need to get us your tax returns or annual statements by this time to have this line of credit renewed. So not only do you have tax compliance, but for those of you looking at corporate accounting, you also have to send a lot of information out to banks and lenders and creditors. And what K1 distributions and things like that. So it's not as bad as being a tax accountant in public accounting April 14th, but there still is a busy season that comes along with it, but it is nowhere near as busy as being in public accounting.
And another note I made here was I even asked, I wouldn't call him a friend, he was just a guy I would talk to in that little cubicle farm in the department. I asked him, I was like, well, how come you guys are just not really all that worried about this? And he explained it to me. He said, a big reason is it's because it's really the controller, the accounting managers whose asses are on the lines, from the C-suite groups that need this stuff done. So if the deadline gets missed, it's really, they're the ones that get like yelled at and chewed out for it. The staff and senior accountants are merely there to just do the grunt work. And if it falls short, it's just kind of a, well, we tried type response. So
maybe don't get promoted to officer, just kind of stay there in the accountant enlisted ranks.
I mean, that's I would be curious what some of those accounting managers and stuff made. But yeah, like I just never felt stressed out when I was there. So, and then the final positive reason I want to say why you should work in corporate accounting, again, just the way I felt. I just felt like everybody was pretty nice and laid back. I have to admit that. Could this be company specific? Yes, but I really don't think so, because you gotta understand, compared to my experiences in public accounting, as well as working with my like multitude of moody and stressed out and standoffish and anxious clients during tax season who are like coming after me, I just thought this was kind of a breath of fresh air. I was just like, okay, we'll do it when we got to do it.
But it was still a bad enough experience and not unfairly bad. It was work, but it was enough of a working
Oh yeah,
reminder. Like,
yeah.
yeah, you're better off being self-employed.
Oh my god, it's
Okay,
not
yeah.
even close, dude. And yeah, when I'll finish off with some conclusions and recommendations about this, but yeah, I it's not a world I'm willing to go back to full time, but at least I never felt like it was more like a merry-go-round instead of a roller coaster, you know?
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
just kind of like, all right, I'm drawing a salary. Um, and the other thing is that, yes, I did mention some of the negatives about working in cubicle land with, my normie staff and senior accountants. But that was really more because of the poor floor setup than anything. Like, I don't really blame them for that. You just shouldn't put people that close together. If one of them if they had their speaker phones on, all I'd have to do was be like, hey, can you turn that down or turn that off? And they would. And the other thing I want to mention, again, probably company specific, but everybody was really willing to help each other out on things whenever they needed extra assistance. Like, I just felt like the attitude was really good. It felt like a bit of a healthier team environment than I was used to. So to me, I felt like that was a positive about the whole thing.
Wasn't it Parker who said H&R Block people were helpful?
Parker did say that. I don't know
Yeah.
if Red Hawk had as much
Maybe
of
it
a
was Red
positive
Hawk.
experience, but Parker did say, and Nick is Steve is not here, but he had more of a mixed experience with that too. And then the last thing I want to mention before I get to my conclusions with this was that I had talked about how I had lunch with somebody just a couple days ago that inspired me to do this. I've stayed in touch with the accounting manager from that particular company all these
Really?
years.
Almost 10 years, huh?
Well, we sort of became friends. And, my favorite part about working there was that, like, he knew what I did. He knew I was just there to help. Not one time did he really treat me like I was a subordinate. He kind of framed it as like, we're sort of working together. You're like helping
Yeah.
me, like, get through this summer.
You're a
on my
hired gun,
employment.
yeah.
Yeah, so I always appreciated that. And so, we're still friends. We've stayed in touch. I was catching him up on everything going on with me. And I mentioned this channel, so I'm hoping he's watching this right now. Well, before I get to the conclusions about all this, man, do you have any reactions to any of this, or
Oh no, because I've never really worked in it. I've only witnessed it from outside. I'll tell you this, it still beats working in finance.
yeah.
It still beats any marketing sales dude bro job. It's
Oh yeah.
stable employment. I think what we did is we reiterated the point, showing you that boring work is compensated work.
Yeah.
It's stable work, and you're just what was there anything you could do to stave off the boredom, or is it just it's the nature of the work because there's no way you can zen or meditate out of it?
It's just kind of the nature of the work. I mean, I one of the things I did, because they had a gym. This was in downtown Chicago, this really tall office building. They actually had a gym at the top of the
Oh,
building. So every day at lunch, I would simply use my lunch hour to go work out, whether it was running on the treadmill. I wasn't lifting yet. I guess I was just running. So yeah, I was running on the treadmill, but that's how I kind of worked it out, because by the time I was done working, I'd come home, I got my workout in, and I could
sure.
come and be ready to drink beer and get into fights with cuddlewooks. So, it's just, oh, memories, memories,
Oh, those
memories.
are good
Yeah,
times. Those are good times. Yeah,
very
I
good
just
times.
I would just reiterate to the listening audience that the amount of boredom or whatever stress that would come from the job that you describe, even with all those negatives, it's better than being poor, making $12 an hour,
Mhm.
wondering if you're going to get laid off.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the sooner you accept the fact that there are no jobs out there that are fun and highly compensated, and you realize, oh yeah, it's the same 8 hours a day. I'm never going to get back. I think it's a very viable option going through corporate accounting. But I guess what percent would you say have to or have stopped in doing a stint in public accounting to go to corporate accounting?
That's a great question. I'm gonna say at least half, minimum,
Really?
minimum,
Okay.
minimum 50%. Yeah. And when I say public accounting, that doesn't mean Big Four, because there are
Correct.
other public. I'm gonna guess probably about 2/3. I think two
Okay.
thirds of people that go into industry have at least some public accounting experience.
And the other way you'd get in was like maybe directly earn turn for the company. You get
Yeah.
accustomed to their billing department. then maybe you expand APAR, and then maybe you'd make your way to staff accountant. But that'd be kind of mailroom to boardroom type of path as opposed to external accounting.
I mean, this was why I said it's really more the people that go into public accounting and take the audit path that tend to end up in industry, corporate, more than us tax people. Because a lot of the people that did tax in public accounting, like I said, they either just work for other CPA firms doing taxes, or they just go start their own shop.
But
like
when
I
you're
did.
doing tax, you get somewhat familiar with the company and the industry,
Oh,
but not
yeah,
their
of course.
accounting process. Auditing gets familiar with their accounting process way more than tax would.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why audit usually goes and works industry.
I would say this: if you identify early on that your goal is to work in industry, to work in an accounting department for a firm, you really ought to go the audit track if you're going to do public accounting.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
So most corporate accountants come from audit in the public accounting.
Yeah.
So does that mean the female accountants in corporate accounting were better looking because they were pooled or sourced from the audit department and not the tax department?
On average, I don't know why. Well, I do know why this is. The auditors in public accounting are better looking. The girls in audit are better looking than the girls in tax. I don't know what it is. That's just how it is. At this particular company, I'll just say that did not hold up to the stereotype.
Okay.
But remember, the two that were out on maternity leave were probably the two.
Yeah.
They were the two best looking ones.
Okay. Well, these are questions.
That's why they ended up out on maternity leave and why I ended up stepping in. So, yeah. A few quick conclusions, and then we'll get to Super Chat's final comments here. So conclusions. At the end of the day, despite it being very methodical, tedious, boring, unexciting, like you pick any adjective you want to, I actually thought that a corporate accounting job can provide a very good work-life balance for the salaries that a lot of them are willing to pay. And so for this reason, it seems to be good for those who have families, because most of the people in the department I worked at, both summers, like they were family men and family women, and they never missed their kids' baseball games or, school play or everything. They were really able to make these events. And yeah, there were 1 or 2 late nights a month with that month end close, but otherwise they were able to be present for their kids.
Awesome. And financial stability, which is key to any kind of family or any other kind of relationship.
That was my next conclusion. Is like, would I recommend this job? And my answer is it depends. If you just want a stable job that pays well enough to support a family and then just get on with your life, when you get home, absolutely, this is fantastic. However, if you're more like me and you hate rigid schedules with a lot of tedious and repetitive work, and you prefer to work on your own time and select who, what, when, and where the work you want to do, to me, this was always going to be a bad fit if I wanted to do it permanently. This was never on the table for me. So,
but you also show that a tax accountant with a tax background could probably step in and do this.
I think so, but at the same time, I did get my CPA, so that's why, from the very beginning, I was cautioning people. Really, the only way you're going to get one of these jobs is if you have a college degree, and it really should be in accounting. You can get a business degree and still get a job.
Oh, you have to get an accounting degree. We're not even entertaining. That's like, should I shoot myself full of herpes? Probably not.
Yeah.
So that's not even a thing. So don't get a degree in business, get a degree in accounting.
Accounting, yeah. I don't think I would have actually gotten this role if I didn't have the CPA. Although I did have that PeopleSoft skills, so who knows? There's one last thing I want to leave off, because this may come up, and you might have a different thought about this. I did not mention DEI in any of this because the summers that I was there, before all this craziness, none of that was taking shape yet, at least not at that company. So I have to qualify. There's probably a lot more of that shit to deal with nowadays in corporate accounting departments, especially at Fortune 500 companies. It's just not what I experienced. So I didn't think it would be fair if I mentioned it, as a negative. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, also, this is the reason we talk about going to a field where the employer needs you more than you need the employer. I think maybe there's some lip service that will always in some way be played to DEI and stuff like that. But they can't be fucking around. They need accountants. And they don't much give a damn what your skin color is or what race or gender you happen to be. So I think you're relatively inoculated against it. Um, I would say that's going to be more of a function of if you're corporate accountant, you're working for a corporation, and the larger they are, there's a higher chance the political culture, the corporate culture is going to bring that in. It's not going to have anything really to do with the fact that you're in accounting. So I think that's more modern day American corporate culture, but you're inoculated against it. I don't think you have to, heart surgeons don't worry about that shit. You don't have to. But it would be, I'm trying to think. It's probably going to be there, but the fact you have a very good skill will lessen the amount of bullshit you have to deal with it.
Right. And I actually have one small regret about I really feel like I should have texted your GF and just had a quick 10-minute chat with her because I really would have valued her thoughts on this, but I didn't have time. I was just
You guys are busy. We're all busy today. So you got up at 10:30 this morning. It's just real tough, man.
10.
I understand.
To be fair, it really was insomnia. I wasn't doing anything. It wasn't cutting up or anything.
I slept till 8 today, which is pretty good for me. Yeah.
You had a lot to do from what it sounded like.
It's a different story.
All right, super chats, Clary, of which you're going to get to keep all.
All right, here we go.
We didn't really get that many.
That's fine. Dre, $2. Chad, did your wife give you permission to stream?
First of all, I don't have a wife. And second of all, if I did have a wife, I wouldn't need her permission to do anything, Dre. And you've met the woman you're talking about, so hush.
Dre, again, $2. Chad, how's Cuddle Wookums and your harem doing?
I don't know, Clary. Would you like to know how Cuddle Wookums is doing?
I love seeing the decay of a vile, evil woman who has avoided work her entire life, and now her choices are catching up to her. So last on Cuddle Wookums, we found Cuddle Wookums was going bald. She married her ex-boyfriend immediately after you kicked her ass to the curb. She had to move in with parents-in-law because neither of them make any money. You get to see their taxes because you do their taxes. And then they move to where her dad is or was, because I don't know if he passed away from cancer yet or not.
Still around.
Okay. Yeah. And it's all basically work avoidance between the both of these Democrat lovebirds. And I don't know what she lost. Is her teeth are falling out? What's next?
So one of the real we clashed about all kinds of things, but one of the big ones with Cuddlewooks and I was politics. She was one of the most progressive people imaginable. And all I'm going to say is she, for reasons Clary already kind of hinted at, had to move to Florida. She ain't liking living in Florida too much, that's the latest.
She can support herself, pay her own damn rent, work a real job, and live in whatever state she wants to live. Yes, she can. She chooses not to.
Right. So, right. That's what I mean. So
is she still like a writer? Remember how she was like, oh, I got a couple publications. I'm like, yeah, well, I wrote some poems that got published in some fucking no-name poetry compendium thing. Is she still trying to be an author?
Still trying to make it. And she's in the same decade as you and I in terms of age now. And here's what gets me about her. It's so funny. We were catching up as I was doing her taxes, and I talked to her about the candidate and everything. And finally she's like, oh, that sounds great. How did you meet her? And I go, wouldn't you like to know how I met her? She's like, yeah, I would really like to know. Well, I met her through Aaron Clary. And she was just like, I saw the look. Just like,
do you know why that look was on her face?
Because you said, I'll get Chad somebody.
I sent her an email, said, I will find someone, I will call upon the entire preponderance of my audience, and I will find someone younger and hotter than you. And I found someone hotter.
Very much
I don't know younger, but I did find someone hotter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yep. If you're hot, it doesn't matter if you're 83. Well, that might be a little weird, but and I did.
You absolutely did.
I did.
You might have an opinion on this.
King Crab, $2. Thoughts on Harris economic policy price control?
Did you see that?
I don't pay attention to did she really want to do price control? Is that what price control? What, housing or what?
I heard a news report. She said something about the grocery stores were, I don't know, charging too much or something. And she's
Price
like,
gouging or whatever.
yeah, she's like, I'm going to put price controls on the grocery stores, which wouldn't that cause people to stop,
You're
producing
going to
food?
have shortages. You're
Yeah.
not going to, I mean, Nixon tried it, a Republican tried it, if I recall correctly, with oil. And even Democrat economists, although maybe the more modern ones have just completely thrown any kind of empiricism out the window, you will simply cause shortages. That's what
Yeah.
price controls do. Prices is what brings in businessmen and women and producers. Say, oh, look at how much money we can make if we supply this industry or field with whatever. Oh, the price of widgets is way high. That's how you
Yeah.
get more widgets in, is the widget producer. Oh, look, we could supply. And but you are talking about a childish affirmative action hire who got by on the fact she is a minority woman her entire
Yeah.
life, and it does not surprise me. It's here, Chad. Why don't we set the price to zero on everything?
Because then we could live in this utopia.
Right.
And then,
If you're going to put the prices down 5%, why don't you put it down 100% on everything and then see what happens?
for every action, there's a reaction. The DNC is here in town, and they had some riots yesterday. Like, I didn't go anywhere near that.
I didn't
But
care.
oof,
I hope it was
I don't care
chaos and a lot of
either.
people got hurt. I just don't care about anyone down there.
I'll read this real quick from Marcus Brown. Hey, Chad, how do you feel about Wesley Snipes' return as Blade? I love it. I never disliked Snipes' movies, and he was a nice guy when I interacted with him. He just had a bad accountant.
Not to be a nerd too much, we have Marcus Brown the second. Are we talking his cameo appearance in Deadpool and Wolverine, or the movie that's never going to happen because they keep screwing it up?
Marcus, if you're still here, please clarify. No. I'm not totally sure. But I'll say for the record again, I always thought Snipes I enjoyed his movies. So, yeah.
Okay, Lord, $5. I'm willing to pay Cappy tax today. Pay tax today. Great show, guys. Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. Okay, Lord. So Clary, I've been challenged in the chat, and I want your thoughts on this. Roderick Sage says, I'm willing to bet next year Chad will not earn the same as this year in tax season. And he says a ton of migrants will do the same job for less. I would love to know your thoughts on that, and whether you think I'm nervous about that.
I agree. You will make less than you did this year. Next year, you make less than you did this year because you're scaling down. Because that's what you were intending on doing it. Like you're not motivated. You got enough money. You want more freedom. So I would say you probably will make less this year, but the immigrants are not going to take your job because they don't speak English, and they're not here to become accountants. They're here to sponge off the system mainly. That's what it is.
I'm not trying to be cocky, but I can promise you, Roderick Sage, not only am I going to make more money next year, I'm going to make more money next year while working less. And
are rates going up that much because there's that much of a shortage?
Rates are going up. I've set up such a crazy referral system at this point. Like, I promise you wouldn't win that bet, Roderick.
I forgot about that. That's right. You get referrals. Yeah. Okay. I thought you were scaling down. I'm like, yeah.
I am scaling down, but I'm also charging more. I'm telling you, man, the message that you and I are getting out there in terms of getting into this industry, getting the EA, getting some experience at H&R Block or otherwise, starting your own firm, people are doing this. And sometime in the next few weeks, I'm going to get something I'm so proud of. A guy that I got started with on his business, he was in the chat earlier, built him up all through referrals, and he's basically all fully established just in the last 6 months. It's crazy, huh?
I did that with David Maloney, or Dr. David Maloney. He's a therapist. And I'm like, dude, I could send you a ton. I think we advertised him a whopping 6 months, and he's all right. I got enough. I can't take any more. Like he was fully stacked in about a year.
Anyway, Roderick, I wasn't picking on you. I'm just telling you, things are going well in this industry, and just take the course, keep watching these videos, and I think you'll be in for a good treat. So, Claire, is there anything else you would like to
hang on? Let me check. Let me see something. Hang on.
I've been informed that real stout lovers don't like this because it's not a real stout, and I'm just like, I don't care.
You and your funny money beers. Yeah, I'm upset. Ain't nobody signed up for the course here.
Well, the link is in the description. If not, it's all over. Clary's got it there. But I want to implore anybody who watches this video and they want to email me for consultation, please, please, please check out the course first. That is way better than what I could advise you. If you take the course and you still have specific questions, hit me up. Otherwise, look at the course first. Okay.
It is pretty thorough. I will grant you that. And then if people are to send you an email, Chad, what are they to do when they send you the email?
Keep it short, you guys. Keep it short. Keep it short. Keep it short.
Keep it like us, short.
Short. Hey. I'll read this one for you from My Truth, the King. For $5. Grocery stores have like worldwide business sectors, smallest profit margins, 2 to 5% max. Also, they revised the jobs report down by 800K. Yeah, Brian Kim actually had a video on that earlier today. And yeah, grocery stores do have really small
very
profit
thin,
margins because they do volume. So that's not going to work. Yeah. That was really all I had, man. Anything else, or shall we?
No, that's it. I think we should end it. And we should probably get around to hanging out, though. The question is at what time and when about?
Soon.
Soon.